I'm Beth Libert. I'm the head of the Volusia Flagler Turtle Patrol. President. I oversee the Turtle Patrol volunteers that go out on the beach every morning, and I go out myself, of course. We go out at daybreak, a half hour after sunrise, or excuse me, half hour before sunrise, and we look for new nests and we mark them, and we monitor them until they hatch, and then we do nest success and collect all the data for the state and the federal government. And now, a lot of people think that the Turtle Patrol is part of Volusia County and the Marine Science Center. We're actually a nonprofit. We have our own 501c3.
That's great.
And it covers 25 miles in Volusia County, 18 miles in Flagler County, which I've just gave up this year. I'm giving up Flagler County, and 2.5 miles in St. Johns County. Well, Volusia County does give us some funding. They're pretty much required to because of the Habitat Conservation Plan, which is the same reason there's a Marine Science Center and a lighting ordinance. That's all because of the Habitat Conservation Plan to keep driving on the beach. We have nest adoptions. You can adopt a sea turtle nest. That's very popular. We have fundraisers. We have our Turtle Trek 5K run, and we have Turtle Fest. They can go to turtlepatrol.com. We also get funding from Jeep Beach, always gives us a donation every year, and Latitude Margaritaville.
Okay.
They give us a donation too. They have a funding program that every time somebody moves in or builds a house out there, they have to donate so much money to their nonprofit organization. And then they give that money to different organizations in the community. It is statewide, but turtles nest all over the world. There's like 230, 250. You'd have to go to FWC website, but there's a lot of permit holders throughout the state of Florida.
Oh, the organization.
I have about 75 volunteers, but now that I'm giving up Flagler, I will have less. 41 years. You know, it was just a weird thing. My boyfriend at the time, David, and I were driving down the beach one evening at about sunset. That's back when driving was allowed all over the time and 24 hours a day. And we were just driving down the beach. We were going to go someplace for dinner. And I saw this woman up in the dunes with a little girl digging in the dunes. And I said to David, stop the truck. That woman is digging a turtle nest. And I'd never even thought about sea turtles nesting on the beach here, even though I'd lived here a long time. I'd never seen one. And so we went up and talked to her, and she was not very nice. She was hot and tired, and she said, I live in Ormond. She says, I only come down here when I get a call that a turtle has laid a nest. And she said, we have to move them all because there's driving on the beach all the time. There's no lighting ordinances. The only way we can protect them is to take them and hide them up in Ormond by the sea where nobody will find them. And I said, oh, I would love to do this. And David's punching me in the arm going, no, you don't want to do this. And I'm going, yeah, I think it's so cool. And she says, well, you'll have to talk to my husband. She said, he runs the program. And so back then, this was, like I said, 41 years ago, I called him and talked to him, and he said, I'll give you the ultimate test. He says, I'll call you in the middle of the night when we have a turtle nesting. We'll see if you can get your butt out of bed and get there. And I said, oh, yeah, well, I'll be there. So it wasn't too many days later, he called and he said that he had a turtle nesting on the beach right down here in Ponce Inlet. And I was like, David, get up, let's go. We're going to go see a turtle. And so we went down there, and we got to see 2 turtles nesting that night. And, of course, it was Richard Durbeck. He was the permit holder, and he had to dig the nests up and take them with him that night. So he did a lot of that, digging nests up in the middle of the night and taking them someplace safe. And I said, well, I really would love to do this. And he says, if you're serious, he says, I'll get you involved. And he says, I'll give you the south end down here because it's so hard for us to take care of this area. I said, yeah, okay. So I had no idea what I was getting into. And what we did then was actually artificial incubation in garages. We didn't even put them on the beach. So the first year I had 14 nests in my garage, in the garage in the house, in this house, yeah. 14 nests in my garage, and I'd taken over from the Ponce Inlet Jetty to Main Street Pier. That was my area, and then Richard was covering from the Main Street Pier through just north of Grenada, and they lived in Ormond. And then the next year there was 44 nests. I mean, I had to get up in the middle of the night usually and go out. I did morning patrols too, but I went out a lot. I'd get called in the middle of the night by the police, whoever, to come out. And we put the eggs in a styrofoam cooler, punch holes in the bottom, put bridle mesh in the bottom to catch the sand, put the eggs in, put more bridle mesh, put sand on top of that, and then made racks in the garage, and we just incubated them in the garage for It's about 50 to 60 days. I mean, warmer temperatures, they hatch faster, and in the garage they were pretty fast. Well, I mean, they can. I had very good nest success, and I had a stethoscope. I would listen to them when I thought they were getting ready to hatch. I'd put the stethoscope on the side of the cooler so I could hear them scratching around in there when they were getting ready to come out. And then when the babies hatched, I'd put them in the back of my pickup truck, and I'd pick up the neighborhood kids around the neighborhood and drive them down to the beach and let them go. I mean, things were easy back then. We had very few regulations. The Department of Natural Resources was in charge back then. It was 1983 when I started. Richard had been doing it for a couple years before that. And before that was Greenpeace. They started it.
Okay.
But we were permitted by the state of Florida. Well, back then all the data was sent to the state. We had to fill out forms. He was doing it in the early days, and then eventually I had to take over doing it. And at one point in time, several years later, Richard got sick and died, and I had to take over the whole beach. Oh yeah, I mean, I took over all of Volusia County, the 25 miles in Volusia, and then there was another woman who did it, hit and miss in Flagler County. She'd got, wherever she could get volunteers, and she had a hard time. I mean, she didn't have a lot of funding and stuff. I mean, neither did we. I mean, there was a lot of days, weeks, months that I had to decide whether I was going to put gas in my truck or whether I was going to buy groceries. We just didn't have any money. There wasn't any funding back then. But she had the same problem up in Flagler, and she did the best she could, but they didn't have ATVs and trucks. I mean, they walked in Flagler. We'd do walkovers and look over the walkovers and see if we saw tracks, and then we'd walk down to the tracks and then haul everything with us. Oh, they're doing really good now. I mean, we did artificial incubation. I'm not really sure how many years I did it here, probably about 4 or 5 years. It wasn't very long before Department of Natural Resources became Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and DEP, they stepped in and said, oh, you're producing all females. The garage is too hot. You've got to leave those nests on the beach, and you've got to get the problems fixed. Back in the early days, they were all in the garage in the styrofoam coolers, and then when they hatched, we took the babies to the beach. And we let them crawl. I mean, we believe that that's why there's so many here now, is because they're coming back, and they're not all that faithful to their nesting grounds anyway. I haven't had anybody show up in my driveway looking for their mama or anything.
Right.
Well, like I said, the first year I did it down here, I only had 14 nests, and then, like I said, it just kept like doubling, tripling. I think the last year I did it, I had 140 something nests in the garage, and that was a lot of nests. I had to build all these wire racks to stack them on, and that was when they finally said, this is it. You've got to leave them on the beach. So then we had like a hatchery situation we set up on the beach, where they could be left pretty much safe. But we still had nighttime driving. We had to go fight to get driving regulated so that at least they were shutting part of the beach down at sunset, and it was a long battle, and getting lighting ordinances and stuff. And so they were, like I said, kind of in a hatchery situation at first, and then it was like you leave them all on the beach wherever they're laid, and that was a lot of trouble. And a lot of bad things happen to turtle nests on the beach. Like right now, the ocean is raging, and nests are being washed out, and hatchlings are getting drowned, and they were safer in my garage. Numbers have definitely increased over the years. Well, with all the seawalls, realistically, eventually there will be no beach. It will be every high tide will be hitting the seawall. The reality. So it's going to rely on places like Archie Carr National Wildlife Refuge and parts of Flagler where there's no seawalls and natural dunes and stuff. Because turtles aren't going to have any place. They might come up and lay if they get a nice dry spell, but then we have a storm like this and everything's underwater again. And everything was underwater this morning. Everybody wants a seawall, and actually FWC kind of wants everybody to have a seawall because there won't be the gaps in between. They just did this big sand project in Flagler Beach, a $27 million sand placement project. We were monitoring for that. Flagler had nice shelly sand. Ponce Inlet has nice white fluffy sand. What they dredged up to put up there is this gray shelly material that came from offshore. I don't think the turtles are going to like it. I don't think the nests are going to do well in it. Everything they put on the beach is supposed to be beach-compatible sand, so I guess they're assuming because it came from out in the ocean that it's okay. But some of this stuff has been pumped up on beaches, other beaches that came from intercoastal waterways, In places like that, they pumped it up on the beach and then it got washed back out and it's out there. I mean, I don't know, but we do see some nests do well in renourished beaches like that. Well, they do like the red shelly stuff. It drains good. Those nests that have been overwashed 1 or 2 times in red shelly sand, they're going to drain and the nests will probably be okay. Down here in this white stuff that we have, which is natural to Ponce Inlet and part of Daytona Beach shores, it packs like concrete. Gets wet a couple times and it just cuts off the oxygen supply and kills the nest. They like Gorman by the Sea the best, north of Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
And the Habitat Conservation Plan actually was set up that way. They looked at years of data of where the turtles had nested historically, and that's where they chose to take driving off the beach, where there really wasn't much driving up there anyway because it's not very drivable. But and Ponce Inlet is good nesting too. So they looked at that to determine where they were going to leave cars and where they were going to take cars off. Some better than others. They usually disorient, though, from the lighting. All the nests, we mark them the same. We put 4 stakes around them. It's about a 5-foot square barrier and with a sign on them, and that's about it. If there's construction areas, we put a 10-foot buffer with construction tape around them. But, yeah, they're just pretty much on their own. Saturday night was the last one, but we're starting to get a lot of washback turtles now, which are hatchlings that have been out there for a month or so or whatever, and they're starting to come in with the seaweed. So we're getting a lot of calls about just stray hatchlings that something's happened to them, especially with this rough weather unearthing nests. Yeah. So there's babies on the beach, and then we've got washbacks coming in too. So a lot of calls about that sort of thing. Just sick turtles, stranded turtles. We had one Saturday night been hit by a boat. Somebody pulled it out of the river in Ormond and brought it up to the boat ramp. And then I had one of my volunteers go pick it up, and I met her in Daytona and picked it up, and then I took it to the Marine Science Center. We get all turtles. We get, I say all, we get leatherbacks, loggerheads, greens, Kemp's Ridleys. Yeah, they're all sea turtles, yeah. I'm not permitted for anything else, but I do pick up injured gophers and take them to the Marine Science Center. Loggerheads pretty much just nest anywhere on the beach. Makes them a little more vulnerable to high tides and storms. Leatherbacks pretty much mid-beach. They make a big mess. They tear up the whole beach when they nest. Greens are the ones that like to crawl high. They like to get up into the dunes and rip out all the vegetation. And yeah, they're very industrious turtles. And then the Kemp's Ridleys, they only nest during the day. They usually come in when it's blustery. They just glide in like a little flying saucer and lay the little nest and go right back out again. Pretty much all of them look the same except the leatherbacks. All the eggs look basically like ping pong balls, except for the leatherbacks are more like a cue ball. Now we're having a fox problem in Ormond right now. There's a really pretty fox family. Red foxes, mama, daddy, and 5 babies. 1 baby got killed already, but they're eating our turtle eggs up there. So we're screening the nests as best we can, but they're getting their share. Yeah, we get coyotes. Last year we had a bad coyote problem in Ponce Inlet. This year, no coyotes down here.
Is it to the level of threatening?
Well, it was pretty severe. When you've got dozens and dozens of nests being torn up by coyotes, they do more damage than foxes. And we'll have somebody will dig up a nest and take the eggs. There's still people that believe them there to be an aphrodisiac, and then there's still some old timers that think that they make the best pies and cakes, and they're supposed to be prized for making pastries. I've never eaten turtles.
Not even turtle soup?
No. The most interesting one was I had just started seeing this guy that I knew. He was a commercial fisherman. This was many years ago, and I was kind of dating him. I didn't know a lot about him. I knew his family was old cracker family and stuff, and I'm not going to name names to protect him, but I got supposed to go away on a short trip with him, and he'd joke about eating sea turtles and stuff, and I just didn't pay any attention to it. And I got a call from a friend of mine in the state attorney's office and said, I hear that you're dating this guy such and such. I said, well, I'm just started seeing him. We're not really dating. Well, you need to stay away from him because we're getting ready to indict him for taking alligators, gopher tortoises, and sea turtles and their eggs. It's like, oh my gosh. He's probably still doing it. He went to jail for a short period of time. And yeah, I know there's still people doing it. And he knew he was going to go to jail if he got caught, but it was his way of life. They think it's their heritage. It's their right to be able to do that. I think it's more entitlement. His family also, ate the wild pigs and the venison and everything too, and I like venison meat. If you talk to John Baker, he likes venison. No, I've talked to people that, said they used to harvest the eggs. Just they'd tell me stories. Yeah, we used to go out and get the eggs. We never took the turtle, but we'd take the eggs. And, they made the best pies and cakes and stuff. Not sure. Well, you can't fry a turtle egg. It won't fry up like a chicken egg. Consistency is different. I've never tried to do it, but I'm just saying the consistency of it is different. So maybe that has something to do why it made such light, fluffy. Well, yeah, I've seen the yolks. I mean, they look basically like a chicken egg.
Okay.
But the viscosity is different. They have to be trained. They have to go through training with FWC, has a yearly training program. I mean, it's like a seminar they have to go to. And then there's ongoing classes and information online, and then stranding workshops, just, different training things that they have to go through. Basically, what they have to do is go through a season under my people, trained people, on the job training. They have to go out and learn how to identify the tracks and the different species of turtles and what the turtles do and how to mark the nests. And well, we get on the beach a half an hour before sunrise, and some days we're just out there for a couple hours. Early in the season, we're not out there very long, but later in the season, we're out there 4, 5, 6 hours, depending upon the section of the beach you're on. We go out every day. I mean, the same people don't. We have a schedule. Schedules, I should say, because I have a lot of people out there. Well, it used to all be paper. Now, a lot of beaches in Volusia County, we're using an iPad to collect the data, and then it goes in real time to FWC and to the county. And then that data also goes back to my Excel spreadsheet and stuff. And in other counties, we're still doing old paper form, but eventually it goes into the Survey 123 that goes to FWC and to the counties. Where the nest was laid, when it was laid, how high on the beach is it. We do measurements from the toe of the dune, from the tide line. Turtle false crawl. Did she make an abandoned body pit where she attempted to lay, then she didn't, then she made a nest? Things like that. In some cases, we actually take samples from the nest after it hatched. An egg, hatchling, depending upon what the species is and what beach it is.
Okay.
Other people make the spreadsheets. I just enter the data, and then it gets sent off to FWC and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And a lot of the data is used for just regular management of local beaches.